Lou is an Empathy Circle facilitation trainer and developer of the Empathy Circle facilitation. Lou has been holding empathy circles, training empathy circle facilitators, and working with Edwin Rush since 2016. He's a former executive of the California State University System and a current member of the Empathy Center Board of Directors and a principal partner at the Authentic Leadership Center. Take it
Thanks.
away, Lou.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about a community project, a community listening project. I often call it a public listening project in my local town. It's called Petaluma Conversations. And and the purpose of it is bridging political and social divides through deep listening. And we use the empathy circle practice as our method of working, although I don't call it empathy circle, mostly because we were trying to attract people from both sides of the spectrum, and I was a little worried that conservatives might feel like empathy's squishy. So I say we're using a mutual listening practice. Although the materials that I distribute does have a link to the Empathy Center, so people that explore it more will discover that connection. And as you can see at the bottom of the slide, I do this with my partner John Crowley, who in the context of the Aquas Community Foundation. And Aquas is a nonprofit that is run by John Crowley, and the way Petaluma's conversation got started was John is a very well known community organizer in Petaluma, and he came to me and said, this was like, I don't know, 7 years ago now. He came to me and said, there's this terrible controversy that's going on around a public art project in Petaluma. And people that I've known for a long time have really different opinions about this. And it's really shocking how mean they're being to each other, like, and attacking each other. And he wanted to know if there was some way that we might be able to have a discussion about it that was more connecting. And so I said, sure, I'd be glad to help. And so we had an evening where he invited all these people. And I brought actually facilitators in. Edwin and Bill came for that night, and a couple other people that I trained. And we had the evening, and people who were very mean to each other online, sniping and judging and everything, they actually listened to they listened to each other as a result of doing the circles. And like one person said to the other, I understand you much better, and you're much nicer in person than you are online. And so this started John and me together creating this thing called Petaluma Conversations. uh let's see here. So our purpose, and we when we gather people, so we do Petaluma Conversations seasonally. So we usually do it once in the winter, and then spring, and then summer and fall, and we do it in a 4 week series of conversations, a week apart. And we gather people at the beginning in a big circle, and we talk about our purpose and the principles on which we're operating, and we describe the empathy circle process. So we say explicitly that our purpose is to come together to listen to each other, to get to know one another, and understand each other, even if we don't agree with each other. And you can see a picture. This is after we've broken up from the big circle. We break into small circles, empathy circles, and we do this in the library. And then why do we do this? We tell people we do this to connect with and learn about people in our community who are different than we are. So we're very explicitly, our purpose is to help people connect across differences. Um, to be heard about whatever is important to each of us, and to build, and this is really key, and I talk to the facilitators about this all the time. People are organizing the project. We're not just trying to hold public listening sessions. That's part of it, but we're also trying to build resilience in the community for responding to difference, with curiosity and understanding, rather than what typically happens, which is, people arguing with each other, people trying to convince each other, people analyzing each other and demonizing each other. So these are the principles, and we read these at the opening of every session. So everyone wants to be heard and understood. That's one of our basic assumptions. We are here to understand each other, not interrogate, argue, or try to convince each other or to problem solve. Uh, and while political problems do need problem solving, and actually all kinds of conflict actually need problem solving, mutual understanding is a very important step before trying to solve the problem. And that's what gets jumped over, skipped over most of the time in conflict resolution is mutual understanding. And so we say explicitly that Petaluma Conversations is just about mutual understanding. It's about just trying to understand each other and get to know one another. We're not here to try to solve problems with each other. Another important principle is that, and it's important to remind people of this, that showing understanding for someone and what they're saying is not agreeing with them. And sometimes people are reluctant to reflect back or to sit with someone who's very different than them because they're worried that it means that they agree with them, or that they're doing some kind of agreement. And so we say that explicitly. And then another principle is, and this is kind of, instead of the problem solving, we trust that people will find their own solutions or decide to change their minds or not as they see fit. And that the mutual understanding that happens during the conversation, it makes a contributions to people's individual choice about whether they decide to change their mind or not. And so we just try to make that explicit. So then also, we say that we're asking people to have the intention of participating with curiosity, which means curiosity about others and what's important to them, and to participate with openness, and that means being open about myself and being open to different points of view. And again, that doesn't mean agreeing with them, it just means being open to hearing them and understanding them. And then honesty, which is saying what's important to you, even if it's different than what other people are saying. So, and that's a really important principle. Well, of the empathy circle, that speak freely. The instructions to the speaker in an empathy circle are say whatever you want. And the idea is speaking freely. Yeah, and if there's any guidance really in the empathy circle, and this is really important part of the empathy circle dynamic, is the emphasis is much more on listening. So if there's any guidance about what to do in the empathy circle, it's really for the listener. How the speaker says whatever they want, and it's the listener who has to reflect back what they're hearing without judging and without doing the other things that we normally do in conversation, which would be argue, agree or disagree, say what we think. That's reserved for when it's your turn to speak. And then mutuality, following the structure provided, meaning the empathy circle structure, to ensure that everyone gets a chance to be heard to their satisfaction. And that issue of mutuality, that's also really key because you know, what happens in normal conversation, if you have a group of people, you don't get mutuality. That does not happen naturally. So it's the structure of the empathy circle that really assures that everyone gets a chance to be heard and to their satisfaction. And that's so important for people having a satisfying experience and feeling heard. So this is how we do it. We gather in a large group. Typically, we have somewhere between 15 and 25 people. That's a typical evening. And we meet in a big circle. We do the introductions, which I just did about all, our philosophy and our principles. And I describe the empathy circle practice. Sometimes we do a demo of what listening is, what reflection is, so that people get a chance to see. And then we split into groups. And we take turns so everyone's heard. These things on this slide are the empathy circle, the pieces of the empathy circle process. And in terms of topics, we announce two topics for each evening. Usually a local topic, something that's relevant to our local politics or local what's going on in town, and then one larger topic, which could be national or it could be personal. Like what is trust, or yeah, something internal. And then we also invite people actually to bring their own topics. We tell people you can bring your own topic, and if there are enough people that want to talk about that, we'll form a group on it. And then we almost always have a no topic group. There are people that show up that just want to talk about whatever's on their mind, and this is an interesting lesson. I had a online when we started this, I had an online sign up so that people could say which topic they wanted to talk about or suggest new topics and the idea, and they would also say what their leaning is, political leaning, and I would try to form the groups, so that when people showed up, we had mixture of gender and political, and interest and all that. And then, people that sign up don't show up, and then people that don't sign up show up. So that whole planning process just goes out the window. So now I just say, so how many people would like to talk about this? We put the topics on the board, we add ones that people say they want to talk about. And then I say, how many people want to talk about this? And those people stand up and we form a group with those people and assign a facilitator and they go off. And so that turns out to work much better than trying to plan it beforehand. Let's see, and I'll say one more. So then we go off into the groups, and they usually do an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and 20 minutes, and then we have them fill out evaluation forms, very simple evaluation forms, 3 questions. Uh, what did you like most about tonight? What would you change? And what are you taking away from the conversation? Um, and then we come back into the big group and there's an opportunity for people to share, how was this for you and what are you taking away from the evening? And we usually get 3 or 4 people sharing, maybe 5 people sharing their experience. And that's just a way to help people integrate and help the group reconnect as a whole group. Um, let's see, twice. These are at the end of every year. I usually send out a survey to just get some information about how people are experiencing what we're doing. Uh, and This is from 2023. Uh, and you can see we have a lot more liberals and very few conservatives. This is something that I'd like to do better is get a wider political diversity in the group, but it really takes effort to do that. You have to go out to a conservative group and do a presentation and talk what you're about and then invite them to come. You have to build enough trust that they know about it, and B, that they would trust that they're going to come and that'll be safe for them to participate in. And then ask them these questions. I learned something that surprised me about someone different than me in Petaluma Conversations. Most people did to some degree. I'm more interested in understanding people who are different than me from participating in Petaluma Conversations. Pretty good results here. I feel more connected to others in my community. So pretty good numbers there. I would recommend participating in Petaluma Conversations to a friend. This I'm really proud of, that, almost everyone, while they might have different feelings about what they learned doing it, almost everyone would recommend it, which is really great. And then I improved my listening skills by participating. People felt pretty strongly about that. And then I'm more confident that I can listen to and understand people whose beliefs are different than mine. So this was, a good goal, and people felt more strongly about that. And another interesting thing is a graph that's not in here. I also
One
asked,
minute.
thank you. I also asked, did you ever try using the Petaluma Conversations listening model outside of Petaluma Conversations? And about a third of the people said yes. I was really surprised by that. And then these are just some of the topics that we uh, did in 2023. So you can see it's a wide variety of topics, some very charged, you know, uh, and some just more self-reflective. All right. So I was hoping I would have time for questions. I didn't think I would go that long, but I did. So there you go. Um,
Thank you, Lou. Is there a way to have hot conversations that's more connecting? Yes. You can call it empathy circles or mutual listening practices. It's potato, potato. Building that resilience, though, for differences through understanding is such big work. Thank you for you doing that.
Yeah. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks everyone for being here.